Hello everyone, this is Roxas1559. Welcome back to BioShock. Last time, we ended up freeing the little sisters from Rapture after defeating Frank Fontaine, thus ending the Rapture nightmare until BioShock 2 would rear its ugly head. In this part, you might notice some things are different. For one, the first question that's probably coming to your mind is, Roxas, why are you in BioShock? You finished this series and you have been done with BioShock 1 since 2013. Well, the main reason is because I never showed off two things. In the BioShock Rapture Ultimate Edition that was released later on, which bundled together BioShock 1 and 2 as well as all of its DLC, and ultimately would be the basis for the BioShock HD collection that was released on the PS4 and Xbox One, I have decided to boot up the game and forgot that there were two things that were added in based on that collection. First was New Game Plus. So you can start a new game with your character data, weapons, inventory, research, etc. carried over from the last completed game. These stats will activate once you reach the medical pavilion. You will be able to equip your plasmids and gene tonics at the first available gene bank found in Neptune's Bounty. You must complete the final level to enable this feature. Off the bat, you might notice, well, I haven't done a new game yet. That is because I am on my Xbox One for this. I'm also using the 360 copy of it because it kind of does, 60 frames per second a little bit better, but that's a whole nother reason. But more importantly, we have the museum. So why don't we go to the museum and show off some little bonus stuff inside of BioShock 1. Welcome to the Museum of Orphan Concept, a guided tour of ideas that a rational game discarded or reworked heavily during the making of the original BioShock. Yes, this is a concept gallery, ladies and gentlemen, that was added into the Rapture Ultimate Edition and into the BioShock collections for BioShock 1 and 2 inside of the PS4 and Xbox One version. So why don't we go around reading some of these? You simply read them by going on the plaque. So, Forest Concept Area Exhibit. Irrational's artist tried to envisage how an underwater city would actually function in this early conceptual work of Rapture. One idea imagined a thick forest for the purpose of oxygen exchange, seen here with an observation catwalk running through around the edge. The concept of using trees for oxygen exchange made it into the final game in the Arcadia level. So as you can see, here we have that. What are these? Well, these, the Gatherer. It may be hard to imagine that this creature, whose job it was to reclaim Adam from corpses around Rapture, was the earliest iteration of the idea behind the Little Sisters. Since the Gatherer generated absolutely no sympathy... generated no sympathy from the players, the team experimented with the concept for featuring a number of animals, including the infamous dog in a wheelchair, and later a grotesque miniature humanoid. Finally, a concept sketch of a deformed child inspired the eureka moment responsible for the Little Sisters. So originally, these slugs and gatherers were going to get the Adam from people who died around Rapture, obviously. Here we have the different Big Daddy concepts, my first one being the early bouncer. The original model for the bouncer type of Big Daddy featured a flat-headed drill at the end of each arm. The Big Daddies were envisioned as the boulders of Rapture, with weapons modified from tools they would have used in its construction. When the Gatherers were reimagined as Little Sisters, one of the bouncer's drills was changed to a gloved hand so the two characters could interact with each other. So here we have, this is what would eventually become the Rumbler. Then we've got the heavy machinery ones. The Sol Profume. Irrational's internet name for the prototype Big Daddy variant who mauled players with an enormous hook and fired iron beatings from a barrel stood for slow projectile fucked up melee. He survived long enough to become a fully functional AI, but the team eventually cut him to focus on polishing other Big Daddy types. This model would later appear in BioShock 2 as the Rumbler, throwing around miniature turrets instead of cannonballs. So yes, the Rumbler was originally going to be inside of BioShock 1, but it was put into BioShock 2. Next up, we got more concept art for Big Daddies. This is the Rifleman. Early Splicer concept art for moving from grotesque to human was the slow process, while early concepts saw melee enemies grew monstrous arms. The team had trouble conveying how someone who had spliced to become a marksman would appear. Then we got a Rosie. Early Big Daddy concept art. These are concept arts for the Rosie Big Daddy, who, like the Bouncer, were envisioned as a construction worker who had been repurposed as a protector for the Gatherers. And then we got another one. Just more Rosies. Hello, who are you? Early Splicer concept art. These are some of the first concept sketches shown to show BioShock's enemies moving in a more human-like direction. Artists coupled that approach with the idea that Adam deformed the body in a way that related to its intense function. For instance, a giant, grotesque arm on a melee enemy. Which, if you remember, we had the... Well, here's a giant, grotesque arm on the other person. These are just different ones for that. Ranged Aggressor. Kind of reminds me of a tank. The first splicer that Irrational created for BioShock, Stitchy, was used in many early concept demos and was fully functional in-game with kinematics, hit reactions, and voiceover. It took us that long to realize that it wasn't a good model, says the lead artist Sean Robertson. This is probably the worst abortion that Irrational has ever made. Wow, so this guy was all the way programmed into the game and then cut. Happens. Early Big Daddy concept. Exhibit Protector concept art. The Big Daddies, originally called Protectors, were envisioned as dive suit construction workers retasked with the defense of atom gatherers. They used construction tools or improvised weapons that looked like they had been found on the sea floor. From left to right show the early concepts of melee, range, and slow projectile protectors. So we got that Scooby-Doo enemy with a hook. That's more than likely a rivet gun. And... is that a rifle? That one looks more like it would be the long-range one than this one. Alright. Hello, who are you? Grenadier Splicer. The gray elephantine splicer was an early grenadier from the same period of development as Stitchy and Hooker. He was a guy who spliced to carry around giant grenades and throw them at you, says lead artist Sean Robertson. The model was built and textured, but never animated. So it doesn't have a rig. Right, this looks like environmental study. The location depicted here was the build for the Vision demo of BioShock, a small level demonstrating several of the key elements of the game, such as Big Daddies and Gatherers. And then this one... Neptune's Bounty concept art. This area appears in the Neptune's Bounty level of BioShock, but most of the bodies floating in the ocean were cut late in development when their cast shadows proved too distracting from the action in the room. Probably also was murder on the frame rate. Right, this right here, I believe, is the Hooker. Created around the same time as Stitchy and the Grenadier, this splicer was dubbed the Hooker because of her weapon of choice. This concept evolved into the Spider Splicer when it was decided that splicer models could fill any behavior role, and the Hooker model later became the Baby Jane Splicer. So this was in-game, I guess. Baby Jane. I don't remember that. Then again, it's been 5 years since I played BioShock 1. Alright, Big Daddy concept art. This is an early concept depicting a Big Daddy bursting through a wall, which inspired the audio log in the Big Daddy training grounds area about a rogue Big Daddy. The player then encountered him at the end of the level. I remember that Big Daddy. I hated that Big Daddy. Right, Sub-bay concept art. This is concept art depicting what would later become a submarine bay, an area which housed an important scene for Atlas. Hello, Splicer. Who are you? Missing link model. This character is essentially the missing link between the grotesque early designs and the human splicers that appeared in BioShock. This is the last bad model we did before moving on to what actually went into the shipping game. This is lead artist Sean Robertson. After playing with him for a while, we just said, why don't we use humans instead? I always thought of these as Scooby-Doo monsters because they were too inhuman to involve empathy. And then here we have early concept art models for the other ones. Let's go with Mr. Claw here. Yam Hand model. This character, diversely called Yam Hand around Irrational Games, was the poster child for the conceptual phase that preceded the decision to go with human enemies. I'd like to point out these drawings behind the model, says lead artist Sean Robertson. You can see the top one got built, but the other two informed the design as well. As we treaded more towards humanoids, the Scooby monsters got goofier and less scary. Didn't stop him from BioShock 2, that's for sure. Fleet Hall concept art. This early concept for Sander Cohen's Fleet Hall was created after the level building had begun, when the designers found that they were having difficulty conceptualizing the theater space. It was one of the earliest places for BioShock and many other assets to be used in the museum that it comes from. Interesting. I always like doing episodes like these, they're fun. Iconic Rapture concepts. This was the first image related to that really captured the visual elements that made BioShock BioShock. A large view of the ocean, the aquatic lighting scene, and the elegant Art Deco design elements. Without this image, BioShock would have been a radically different beast. That looks like that's from BioShock 2. Right, now we've got more grotesque Scooby-Doo monsters. Early creature concepts. These were some of the earliest pieces done for BioShock back when the Irrational was still working on SWAT 4. The only concrete ideas at that point were an undersea city and biological experimentation, so early concepts focused on those themes. So weird bat creature? Nope, still SWAT 4. And then slime from slug, blood on the inside of glass ports, tarnished brass, a little robot. And I think that's everything in this museum. It's a nice little addition into the game, and as I mentioned, it is available inside of the Ultimate Rapture Edition. What was that? Hanging sea life. Okay, good thing I saw that. Not as much of a cut concept as an Easter egg for observant museum visitors, these creatures can be seen swimming past the player's view during the bathysphere ride down to Rapture in BioShock's opening sequence. Also, is this the whale? The whale, the squid, the giant anglerfish, the shark, basking shark, looks like. Yeah, it's a basking shark. There's the whale. That's cool. I'm glad I looked up. Well, that takes care of all the stuff for BioShock 1. I had thrown around the idea of, doing another playthrough of BioShock 1, but maybe someday in the future. For right now, though, anyway, guys, I'm going to end it off right here. This has been Roxas1359, and thank you all for watching. Hope you like the rest of the BioShock content on this channel. See you all next time.